Welcome back, Curious Hearts. I'm Vera. Together, in every episode, we get to explore what it is we really believe, how we practice, and we get to meet people who are on their own spiritual path. Together, we begin. Y'all, I'm so excited for you to meet my dear friend, Paige Piku. She is a soul sister in a really magical way, and I almost don't feel right calling us colleagues, because I think of you as being this wise teacher. Paige has been teaching yoga in New Orleans for a long time. Is sort of one of the OG yoga teachers in the New Orleans community. And because of that, it's been really a privilege on my end since we met maybe 10 years ago to watch your change and evolution and growth, and to watch you do some really extraordinary things and also watch you do some really extraordinarily hard things. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation today.
Thank you. I don't really know how to respond to that except to say I'm honored to be here. Thank you for that. I'm feeling emotional. So, because it's special. You're a special person and a good friend. And we have such meaningful conversations every time we get together that, I feel like this is going to be good.
I think it's going to
Thank
really
you
be
for
good.
having me.
Oh my gosh, I really am so excited for people to get to meet you. So I'll begin with you the same way that I began. Is there anything else, sorry, that you want to share before we start, before we dive in,
Let's
go all
go.
the way back? Okay.
Let's go.
So I always start with the same question, which is what did your spiritual life or religious life look like when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, I was raised Catholic, and I did catechism. So there was a sense of a religious life. There wasn't a spiritual life. Spirituality didn't come into my life until much later. But yeah, I grew up going to catechism and going to church on Sundays. It wasn't, the overarching culture in our house. It was something that we did until we didn't. Somewhere around when I was 14, we just stopped going to church. I remember going into my older brother's room and asking him why aren't we at church? And he was like, I don't know, but don't say anything in case they make us go back.
Well, and so were you the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
Yeah. Okay.
Baby and the only girl. So I have two older brothers.
It's interesting, right? So it's I guess, they got you through, were you confirmed?
Yes.
Yeah. So they got you through confirmation. They were like, okay, we're good. They can do whatever they want to do now.
Yeah, it was really a long time. Maybe a couple of years later, I finally just asked my dad, why did we stop going to church? And it was actually about money. He had a falling out with a priest about money. He was a big donor to the church, and they had a conflict, and it shook my dad to his core to the point that he just fell out of love with church and the church. And later in his life, he kind of had an interest in going back, but it was never ever the same for him at all. And so I kind of felt like I wasn't moved by the church. I didn't enjoy going to church. I only ever remember being bored and just antsy about church. And then there were the years that we didn't go, and I didn't know why, and I didn't know what happened. And, I feel like those were sort of godless years, because there was no religion. And
Sure.
I didn't know anything else, and there was none of that. And then around my senior year of college, I I changed my major to religious studies because it was the fastest track to graduation.
I was like, wait. Hold on.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to go to college, but then when I got there, I had a great time, like just taking classes and learning things and following charismatic professors, for a little while, and then changing my major. And finally, my dad said, you have to graduate. I need you to find the fastest track to graduation. And it was religious studies, so I changed my major. I was going to Loyola, a Jesuit university, and I changed my major to religious studies. And
Wow.
that same year, I started working at the House of Blues. And the culture of the House of Blues was very much rooted in Eastern spirituality. The motto is love all, serve all. There's a big Sai Baba above the stage, or there was at the time. I'm not sure it's there anymore.
I had no idea.
Yeah, the founder, Isaac Tigert, was a devotee of Sai Baba.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
I'm studying religion, multiple religions. I'm taking Zen classes. I'm taking the New Testament as literature instead of scripture. And I'm now I'm being introduced to Eastern spirituality, which really called to me. And, at that point, I started to notice, there's something humans have been trying to organize around and connect to and codify and explain something. And it seems like it's the same something. It's just got different language, different words, different names. And I really woke up and became very curious about what that meant for me, And it went from being there's nothing there to there's something there. There's something, and it's universal.
Yeah.
Even though it shows up in all these different ways in all these different places. And, I did a lot of other things at that time in my life that opened my mind a lot.
Yeah.
And so this is all happening
Yeah.
at the same time in the few years before I took my first yoga class. And that's when I became a seeker and a really curious person when it came to exploring spirituality.
Where did you take your first yoga class?
I took my first yoga class from Alvina Haverkamp in 1998. And at the time, there were two places to take yoga classes. There was Alvina and there was New Orleans Yoga Center. And that was it. I didn't even know what yoga was. I was coming out of a really rough time in my life. I had injured myself at work. I have this scar on my finger. I'd been out of work. I was a server at House of Blues, so I couldn't work. I'd been taking painkillers for the pain, which I liked doing that. So I was weaning myself off those. I was broke. I was newly and unhappily married. I was having a really rough time, and one of my coworkers suggested that I go to yoga with her. And she said it would make me feel better, and I wanted to feel better. So I healed, and I got permission from my doctors, and I went to yoga. And I remember two very poignant things about that night. One, walking in the door and seeing Alvina sitting on the floor. She was ancient at that time. I don't know how old she was. I never knew. But she had this long gray hair and wrinkled, and she was sitting in lotus position, and she just said, well, hello. Who are you? And I just wanted to cry, there was something in that moment. And then I remember leaving that night and walking back to my car and feeling I could hear music coming from a club. Her studio is on Oak Street. I don't know if it was coming from Giacomo's or some club. I could hear music, and there's dappled moonlight in the trees. And I was walking in my car, and I was like, wait, The circumstances of my life have not changed. But I feel fine.
Yeah.
Almost happy. And yeah, I think I have spent from that moment to now trying to figure out what happened, you know? So I went on a deep dive. I went to yoga every day for like 5 years, and I've been, I don't even know, so many certifications and all the trainings, and you know, I learned about the Vayus and I studied the sutras and all of this, and I still don't know that I can explain what happened. But it keeps happening. I keep going back over
Right,
and
and
over
that's
and over again.
Yeah, like there's something about like those two pieces. One is like, I don't know what happened, but something happened, and like trying to recapture that feeling of just like magic, right? Like I remember those same feel like walking out of, I did not go to yoga looking for anything other than, you know, like many practitioners, right? Stretch, you know, I had been a dancer in my past life, and so vinyasa yoga was really fun. But I was there like for a workout, right? I like that was what I was doing. Um, but something happened. Something was happening at the end of Shavasana that I was like, I don't understand why this feels so good. I think in some ways I've been chasing that feeling since, or trying not to chase that feeling now. And also that same like I don't know what happened. And both like seeking like the answer to the question of like, what is it that's going on here? Why is this so magical? How could something so simple be so magical? And even with all, same thing, like with all of the study, right? The like academic study about nervous system regulation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of the like esoteric study, it's still like, it's like bigger than all of that, right? It's like sure, that's part of what's happening, but also
It's still that unnameable, mysterious force.
yeah.
You know, who am I to think that I'm going to be the one to give it a name when it hasn't? You know what I mean? Like the real essence of it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but I know that that has happened over and over and over again as I practice yoga. So
Yeah. Yeah. So
I
like
keep
might
doing
as
it.
well. Exactly. That's exactly. Yeah. So I'm like might as well. I think it is the thing above everything else that I love about yoga practice is that it is a practice of direct experience,
Yes.
right? It's like
Yes.
you go have the experience. I can like point you in the direction of it, all of the teachers, all of the writings, all of the everything, but sit down and have your own direct experience of this. And I actually have no idea what direct experience any of my students or colleagues are having. And that part
Right.
is also like, oh,
But I trust
yeah,
that they'll have one. I trust that something will shift, something will unlock, something will open. In some way, they will be touched by that unnameable something
yeah,
at some point along the way.
yeah,
So we keep going back.
yeah. So you have had a wild journey, adventure since then. I mean, right up until like the current moment, right? You're sort of on the cusp of the next iteration. Um,
Yes.
what does your personal spiritual life and spiritual practice look like now? Like, what is that? How's it feeling on the inside?
Um, well, my personal spiritual practice centers around nature and being outside. After Todd died, I couldn't be inside. I couldn't be inside. Like inside felt like I was suffocating. So I spent as much time as possible outside, in my backyard, walking around my neighborhood. Like I would go to my daughter's soccer practice, and instead of sitting in the car, I would go sit out and find a place to sit, like outside. And you know, I felt held and like nourished by nature, you know, by Ma. And I just started to notice things while I was sitting outside being in nature that, you know, concepts that I intellectually knew and studied were playing out in front of me, you know, prana, life force, cycles, you know, birth and death of things, you know, in my yard. And I started to understand so many things just by sitting outside. And, you know, to this day, I get up and go outside in the morning. It's like before anything else, I need sky and birds and trees and flowers and earth.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think and feel like that's the real world. And all this other stuff feels like theater. That's the
it's
real
like
world.
like the natural world versus the cultural world, right? Like all the things that we create.
I had a
I
really
think I will.
powerful. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about the moment that the day that I came to visit you after Todd died. And for those who are listening, I'm not going to make you tell this story, but Paige's husband died really quickly and tragically of cancer when, you know, Paige's daughters were all teenagers, early teenagers. And so
14, and 18.
yeah.
All in
And
high
so,
school.
yeah, leaving her with sort of an unimaginable moment. And I was a couple of years maybe out of my deep grief over losing my dad and all sorts of other things. And just going and sitting with you. And you were like, do you want to sit outside? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I do. And just being able to, there is something about sitting in the like wide open space of the natural world. Because
It's big
it feels
enough
like
to hold it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had I have so many cats, and they're all coming to visit.
That sounds right.
I had an experience in my backyard about a year and a half maybe after Todd died. We had a cherry laurel tree that was felled by Zeta, and at some point, you know, all cleaned up and cleared out. And I was just sitting out there, and I started noticing like all of this stuff is coming up in the space where this tree used to be. Like new grass is growing, and we had like a sweet olive and a lantana that had been in the shade of the cherry laurel and always remained really small. And I was like, wow, look how big they're getting. And the lantana had like, you know, just fully was thriving and started taking over a big swath of this part of the yard. And there were butterflies and bees all around. And I thought, I literally heard, like on the wind, I literally heard like, there's life after loss. Like, it's right there. It's right there. I heard it. I felt it. I understood it. It was like, no, and I'm sure I had read that in a book somewhere. You know, but it didn't.
Right.
It didn't land because this was coming from. I could see it. This was alive in the moment. This truth was alive in the moment, and that's what I get from nature that I don't get anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
the teachings are true and alive in the moment in nature. So that's my spiritual practice now, and it is endlessly fulfilling to spend time outside observing.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
We're
I mean,
not
I'm just
apart
thinking,
from nature. We're a part of nature. And
yeah, we
we feel
absolutely
reconnected
are.
to my nature when I'm in nature. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense to me. And I think it's not the first time that's come up in a conversation here. I know that when I'm not outside for an extended period of time on a regular basis, things are not going well. And there have been, this is the same thing. It's like there have been all of these like scientific studies, and like they've like quantified how much outdoor time we need in order to be, and it's just like, just go outside. Just like leave your phone at home.
Yeah. And how could you possibly quantify that when it depends on how long it's been since you've been outside and what is it that you're going through, you know?
Yeah.
In Ayurveda, the prescription for depression is to walk into the rising sun every day until you're not depressed anymore. Because
Why is it the first time I've heard that? It's also like, as a depressed person, as a chronically depressed person, medicated for many years, it's so funny because I'm like, yeah, that's probably the last thing when I am deep in depression. The idea of doing that sounds terrible to me. Right. And it's like the way that, no, not like, the way that sometimes like the best medicine can be bitter. Right. And the thing that I know from being depressed and having depression is like, lifelong coming and going. But over time, there's a certain comfort to it, right? Like, I would rather stay here under this heavy, wet blanket because I know what this is. I understand this part, the risk of feeling better, right? Or of trying something and it not working, or, yeah, I mean, there's just something so heavy and dense about it that. Are you telling me that I'm supposed to get up before the sun rises every morning? Is that? I probably
get up
should.
when it's rising and just
Fair.
immediately go.
Just immediately just
But
go
I
outside
think
and walk into the, yeah.
yeah, I mean, and it's on multiple levels,
Yeah.
what is more hopeful than dawn? That's one. You have an internal sun that rises, and so you're
Yeah.
awakening from within, your internal sun rising as you take in that,
Yeah.
it is the Brahma Muhurta, which is, Brahma Muhurta is a period of time when you are Brahma, right? It's like that window of time where we can access that creative part of ourselves. And if we sleep through it, we miss it. But so that energy is there. And you're moving, so depression is very kapha, very
Sure.
earth and water. And so the antidote to that is to move. So it's like you're moving and you're moving toward the dawn, the most hopeful thing. And there's an energy there that is creative and full of potential, and your inner sun mirrors the sun, and it's a dreamy, hopeful time and technique.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm like, okay, it sounds like the last thing that I want to do. And also, that might be a good prescription for me right now. Like,
Chant the Gayatri and walk into the sun.
yeah. I mean, I don't need to do anything else other than like, right, to be up and to do that. I had a conversation with another dear friend of mine, not for the podcast yet, yesterday. And I said, is this part of our job right now as like spiritual, leaders or teachers? Like, are we supposed to be hopeful? Is that what we need to be doing? Like, is that my responsibility? Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like the circumstances of the exterior world have changed a little in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Like we are recording this the day after the November elections, when Mamdani won in New York and like across the country. But and not exact like, and at the same time, and it probably is like my kapha nature, right? And so for folks who don't study, who aren't familiar with Ayurveda, like kapha is this like heavy, dense, sticky sweet, is how it was always described to me. It is, that we have
And
these
stable.
internal and stable.
Building
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's
strong.
yeah, it's like all of that, right? But that like heavy, dense makes like, I think, brings my attention more to the kittens having a great time.
And my desk has been cleared.
It's always the red cats, always the orange cats. That kapha has this energy of like heaviness, right? So part of my like personal exploration practice is like, how can I hold both, right? How can I hold hope and lightness without ignoring the things that are still dark and heavy? But I think it is more my nature. It's easier for me to see the things that are hard and challenging. So, yeah, I mean, in that way, right? It's like, it is your nature, it is our tendency, like that is the way that I tend to go. And so I have this sense of, I love sunrise and sunset as like the metaphors for so many things and the direct experience of many things. And like one of them is, we watch the sunset and it's beautiful every night. And at no point when the sun is setting are we worried about whether it's going to be back tomorrow. And like what a teacher for loss and change and non-attachment, right? Not grasping, just be like, yeah, no, it's beautiful leaving, and it will return. Something will return. Yeah.
It's going to lead us into the night, and it's going to lead us into the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, but I probably should spend some more time with sunrise.
Try it. Try it for a week.
Yeah.
Run an experiment and see how it goes.
See what happens. You personally are in, I feel like for the last, certainly like my experience of grieving, I don't even want to say like recovering from grief, but like grieving and like allowing the grief to live alongside our life, meant that like things had to change. Life had to change. And so I have watched as you were like, I don't know if I ever want to teach yoga again, to I think I want to own a studio and opening Blue Heart, and like what a beautiful space and community, and like the like, not to get ahead of myself, but like I love the spiritual name that you were given. I was like, yes, somebody just saw you exactly as you are and gave you that name. But like as Blue Heart, through all of the complications of real estate, right, is closing, and you're shifting into this next phase. It's so much change. How, do you find like a spiritual principle or a spiritual teaching that is like coming back around a lot, that's helping you get through this?
Definitely, yes. I don't know about coming back around, but continuing to bolster and support me in going through whatever it is. Um, and so going back to Alvina, like early on in my yoga journey, for lack of a better word at the moment, like you, I came to yoga from dance. And even though I was coming into it from a period of inactivity, I still was like really good at the physical practice, you know? And yoga was making me stronger. So I got to a point where I could do a handstand. And I did a handstand. And I went to Alvina and I was like, I did a handstand. Like, did you see it? I did my handstand today. And she said, woohoo, you did a handstand. Like, so what? Big deal. Who cares? She literally said, so what? Big deal. Who cares? And then she pulled me aside and we sat and we talked and she said, you know, that's not at all what we're doing here. And she said, yoga is the art of being with what is. Can you be with what is? That's yoga. Be with what is. And I've come back to that, you know, throughout all of it, you know, when I was, you know, having kids and my body was changing and it was uncomfortable and raising kids and, you know, I had 3 daughters, you know, twins and a 4-year-old at some point in my life, you know, and I couldn't do a lot of the things I wanted to do. I couldn't take some teaching opportunities that I wanted or study, you know, but I kept coming back to like, well, but can I be with what is, you know? A lot of the teachings of yoga, you know, rest upon that foundation for me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but I want you to say more.
I'm thinking about like a paragraha and not grasping. Like, how do you practice that? You know, we be with what is, you know? Presence, it brings me to presence, you know? Certainly as I realized the situation I was in when Todd relapsed the last time, I leaned heavily into that because it felt unfathomable and impossible, but it was what was happening. And if I didn't be with it, I wasn't gonna be able to get through to the other side of it. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't avoid it, you know?
Yeah.
And in the aftermath, in the grief, like being with the full weight of the grief of it.
Yeah.
Not constantly. I go in and come out, but I had to be with what was. That was the reality of my situation, and the only way I was going to be able to navigate it is if I let it be what it was, and I let myself be the way I was, which was, you know, devastated and lost and confused and rudderless, you know. And, you know, I would say that, yeah, it came around recently when my life changed again dramatically in a really good way. You know, could I let myself be with being happy? Could I let myself be with being loved and seen and, you know,
Yeah.
could I let myself be with that? I wanted to, so I did. I'm glad I did. It's worked out nicely.
I'm glad you did too.
And yeah, be with what is, even when it's joyful and happy and good and not hard. Can I let myself be in it when it's not hard? I'm learning. And with the studio closing, I had to let myself be with the truth of that, which is that that's what I wanted. I really don't think Blue Heart was meant to be a permanent thing. It was a bridge, And at the time I opened it, I needed a reason to get up and get dressed and leave my house and interact with people and practice yoga. And opening a yoga studio seemed like the absolute right thing to do. And it was. And I'm glad I did it. And I would do it again in a heartbeat because it helped me. It healed me. It brought me back to my practice. It brought me back to that curiosity and, and the mystery and the love of it. And I brought a lot of people with me on this healing journey at Blue Heart. I've had people say, this place opened at the exact right time for me, and I'm in a good place now, and I can let it go. And what is now is that something else is wanting to be,
Yeah.
And that, Blue Heart is the only name I considered for the studio. It was very right at the right time. It's rich with symbolism for me personally, and at the time, it was absolutely the way I wanted to express myself and where I was in grief. That symbol is very connected to Todd, to my late husband. I'm gonna have it tattooed on myself. Yeah. That goes back to House of Blues. We met at House of Blues. And interestingly enough, I'm re-partnered with a man that I met at House of Blues. And that was community, and that was spirituality, and that was connection. But it was also very much Todd and I and our connection. Yeah. And I think that it was a way for me to say, I'm stepping back into this world of teaching, but please don't forget for a single moment, I'm grieving. It wasn't even until recently someone said, oh, I thought that it was because you were sad that it was called Blue Heart. Your heart was blue. I was like, maybe that too,
Sure. Yeah. All of the things.
So being with what is right now is that was that, and that is no longer a full representation of who I am and where I am and what I do and how I do it, and that it has to close to make way for the new thing. So many things have changed since I opened Blue Heart. My daughters all graduated from high school and moved out of my house.
What?
So I'm experiencing this freedom that I haven't known in 23 years, and I don't want brick and mortar. I don't want to have to go somewhere every day. I kind of want to really just explore my creativity and be free. I've been diagnosed with ADHD at 52.
Right.
What
surprise!
A fucking eye surprise, but no surprises. Looking back, I'm duh, how did I not know that? But I didn't, and now I do. And it highlights that running a brick and mortar studio and everything that's involved in that is not how I'm wired. It's not what I'm wired to do. Of course, we partnered with a wonderful man who who travels a lot and has a lot of free time, and I want that too. And so restructuring how I live makes sense. But probably the most important thing is that I feel like I have alchemized all of the experiences from the day I walked into Albina's to now. In partially because of everything I've been through in the last 4 years, losing my practice. And when I say that, I mean, I didn't do yoga for 2.5 years after Todd died.
Yeah.
But I was busy being with what was in that time. And so I was doing yoga
Yeah.
the whole time, spending time in nature, contemplating the mysteries and the karmic momentum of my life. All of this I was doing when I wasn't doing yoga. I feel like all of that has brought me here, and that it's time to own it and to step into it, to step under the umbrella of the name I was given and what I feel like is my dharma at this time. You know, my dharma's been raising children and all of these things up until now, and this is a big shift. And if I'm abiding by the principle to be with what is, then this is what it's time for me to do. So I'm taking the spiritual name, Dayamai, that I was given over a decade ago, and I'm bringing all the ways that I've taught yoga. I've taught in church halls, which could be a shala. I've taught out of my home shala. I've taught, in a lot of different places. And I've adopted the principles of Ayurveda and Dinacharya, and I'm bringing it all together. Yeah. And this feels like the last time I will have to, completely scrap and start over, because this is really, the culmination of something that Blue Heart was a big part of bringing to fruition.
What's sticking with, there's so many things. The first is like the way you described Blue Heart, and that it does make sense to me that it was in many ways a way of being with what was at the time, but that it was a way of moving through the loss, right? And moving through the grief. And that grief is certainly a part of you, will always be a part of you.
Always.
And stepping forward, when you said Daya, I was like, oh yeah, that's compassion. It is right. And there's a line in the Durga Stuti that's like, we bow to she who exists in all beings as compassion. And
that's beautiful.
And it's what's so interesting to me is that, like, in many ways, I think that's what compassion is. Compassion is the ability to sit with our full presence with what is, without trying to fix it, without trying to change it, without moving into solutions. Like, it's not to say that we avoid solutions, but that, like, we must be with the full presence of what's in front of us. And like, that's all, I think that's what every spiritual practice, every lineage is about, right? Is, in the Buddhist tradition, right? It's like, can I grow a heart as wide as the world? Right? Like, because it will need to be as big as that wide open sky to hold everything. And I love that it is, I love that it's your name, right? That it gets to be, this next phase for however long it lasts, maybe for the rest of time, or for the next however long. That it is, it's you. It is your whole and like true self, and I think it is the thing that there are not a lot of people who I have met in my life who I didn't have to spend a lot of time with before I was like, oh yeah, I will come sit by you for as long as you let me, right? And you're one of those people. I just we met at a workshop once, and then it was like I had known you my whole life. And I think it is exactly contained in this thing. It's that so rarely do we meet people in the world. I have rarely met people in the world who can sit and hold the fullness of exactly what's happening in front of them with without needing it to be different. It sounds so simple, and it is so hard.
It's a practice, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I can't say that I live in it. I can't say that I didn't rail against it, when my life blew up and everything changed. And I can't say that I don't have moments where I am like, fuck.
Yeah.
But I can say that I can return to it and that it's healing, and that it gives a point of, it's like a portal to things changing. Does that make sense?
That's the part to me that it does. It's the part to me that is so the paradox inside of it is being able to sit and be with what is, and not trying to change it, because that's what we want to do. I want to be in control. I want to machinate and create all of the things that I think will be correct.
Sure. Me too.
And I think about that in the context of my own life. I think about that in the context of the world right now. I have a very specific idea about what should happen in the world right now, And I think anybody listening to this, regardless of point of view, also has a very specific idea of exactly what should be happening in the world right now. And the capacity to just be with what is what allows it to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's wait, what?
Because in that allowing of things to be with what is, you're also allowing for recognition of the fact that you would like things to be different.
Yeah.
But you're not acting on it. But then you will get an opportunity to act on it at some point. And because you've recognized so fully that that is an aligned action for you, then you can take action when the time is right,
Yeah, without forcing it. And I think that's, to go back to the question that I asked about your practice, about being in nature, it's the thing that nature teaches me, right? It's nature is not in a hurry.
You cannot force the night blooming jasmine to bloom.
No. Regardless of, daylight savings, you cannot make the sun rise faster. You cannot make the sun set faster.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, you're convincing me to get up with the sun every morning as an experiment.
Just try it. What if it worked? How cool would that be?
Right? There's that, right? Because like there's that hope again, that like I think when people talk about hope as being the most vulnerable, right? Hope and joy, I think, are the two most vulnerable states of being. Not fragile, but vulnerable. And it's why they're so scary. So it's like when you said like to be able to be in joy again and to like be happy again and like how to be able to be with that. I think that that's just as difficult as being with the darkest, unimaginable, unbearable.
It sure felt impossible to me because I was pretty sure that, lonely and grieving was just the way I was going to live out my days. And like you mentioned, I got somewhat comfortable in that, you know? It was just blue, big, I painted the big blue heart on the wall. Like that was the symbol of where I was in my life at that time. I was very comfortable underneath it. I was very comfortable carrying this, this visage of grief and loss. And I just thought that was like the story. Like that.
Yeah, this is just how it's going to be.
This was it. And I was getting comfortable in it. Not that I, you know, it just, it just seemed like how it was going to be. And I just thought grief and I were synonymous and partnered and going everywhere together all the time forever. And so for someone to come along and take me out of that and open a door to a new possibility was very, very scary. And I thought at first that I should resist it, but then I was like, wait, something undeniable is happening. Can I be with it? What is this?
Yeah.
Let me explore this. And yeah, glad I did. It feels nice.
I'm really glad you did too.
Thank you.
Well, I asked you already about a practice. Is there anything else that feels alive to you today that you want to share?
I think another thing that I'm leaning into a little bit that I will share is really embracing ritual as a practice. Ritualizing simple things, like I have a little mantra I say as I make my coffee. Light a candle at dinner. Done some more formal ritual, like I did Pitru Paksha this year, the ritual for the ancestors. But that feels very grounding and very like making the mundane sacred, and that feels good too, And so I do think we're in some crazy times right now. And like you mentioned, there's kind of a new hope that today that maybe I wasn't so comfortable leaning into yesterday that I am now. But one of the things that I do lean into in cultivation of groundedness and steadiness and, sacredness in my life is ritual. And so And I think that's, that's something that you can really personalize, and do it your way, and um, it can be fun and healing and magical too. So
Yeah. Um, can I ask you a question that I often turn over in my head?
sure.
Which is, what is the difference between ritual and routine?
Well, I think it's presence and intention. That's the first thing that comes to mind, right? Like getting up and making coffee can be routine, and you can do it while you're um, half asleep, but you can do it, it's like that driving thing, right? Like you can get where you're going and not remember the drive,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you can get where you're going and notice along the way, like, oh, did you see that? Did you see the birds on the wire? Did you see the way the sun was coming right down, that little shadow of light? Did you see that person on the side of the road? Like, did you really look at them? I think
Yeah.
that's the difference, right? Routine, we can do routine um, without really thinking about it, but we can make routine rich and rich.
Yeah.
It's in the word. Ritual is
Yeah.
rich. You know, it's got a presence and some connection to it.
And a texture and yeah,
Yeah, like
100%.
my new thing is to light a candle with a match.
Yes, please.
It's a whole moment that you don't get when you click a lighter. It's those little things that make a routine. You can ritualize a routine.
Yeah, or it's like really special. But there's also, as you said, like the intentionality behind it, right? That like making coffee is one thing, you know? One of my favorite things that I sort of caught myself doing yesterday is like just being really present in the sounds of my morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's my like make my morning potion coffee, right? With all the, put it in the blender and like the opening of the different things and the plop, plop, plop and all of that. But like to be in, to be with an intention for what is happening, right? It's like infusing meaning into what is otherwise, yeah, mundane. Just sort of like, okay. Mm. I feel like I have so many assignments now after this conversation. I know that I'm certain that was not your intention, but I sort of
It
love that
wasn't.
that's like the takeaway for me is that I have like, oh, I think I should try some things. I think I should do some things differently. And
Run
then
some experiments.
yeah, run some experiments. I think
See what happens.
yeah, and my hope is that folks who are listening have the same. They're like, oh, okay, that's an experiment that I'm willing to try to just see. Hmm. I'm so grateful to know you and to be
Oh,
a witness of your journey and to have you around to like just be with what is over here. Like, just it really feels like a tremendous gift.
likewise, my friend. Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, Curious Hearts. If this episode was useful, I hope you'll follow the show or leave a review or share it with somebody who you think needs it. And if you're craving support on your own spiritual path or seeking some meaningful work, you can find ways to work with me at veralester.com. Otherwise, until next time, please stay grounded in that curiosity that you've got and keep turning towards what matters. See y'all soon.